The best method for creating consistent characters just got even better. You all loved my previous video about creating consistent characters with my AI character sheet workflow. But you all had one question. What if I already have a character? Can I generate all this from an existing image? And the answer is yes, you can. Here's how it works now. You can input an image of your character's face, describe the rest of their body with a prompt, and the workflow will automatically generate a character sheet showing your character from multiple angles. It'll also create different emotions that you can easily customize and place the character in various environments with different lighting conditions that you can adjust with a simple prompt. All these images are then saved out, allowing you to train a custom Lora of this character, for example. A Lora will allow you to generate endless consistent images of your character using simple prompts. You can now also load in style Loras into the workflow. So whether you want to create vintage 2D Disney characters or transform yourself into a 3D Pixar character, any style is possible, except for the Minecraft movie style. That didn't work. So in this video, I'll guide you through the workflow, and in the end, I'll show you how to install this free workflow on your own computer step by step. Like for the last version, we're using a character sheet that displays the character's bones in the OpenPose format as our foundation. This allows us to generate the character from various angles using a tool called ControlNet. But this time I've enhanced this workflow by incorporating a tool called PullID. PullID extracts the facial structure of your input image and integrates it into the generation process, resulting in very consistent outputs. The entire workflow runs automated inside of ComfyUI, a node-based interface for AI models. And while it might seem overwhelming for beginners, I'll guide you through each step. However, I still recommend you're getting familiar with ComfyUI before working with these workflows, because they are quite advanced. I've created 3 versions of this workflow. So let's start with the Flux version. I asked on my Discord for characters that I could try this out with, and I got this woman right here, which I guess was generated in Midjourney. So let's create a character sheet for her. I just open my ComfyUI window and I just drag and drop the workflow into the ComfyUI window. This is the full workflow, and we are going to work from left to right. So let's zoom in on the left corner here. You can use this one to activate or deactivate the other groups. You can see I activated them now, so here they are. But for now, we don't need them, so we can deactivate all of them. And the idea is pretty much that we generate a character sheet here, and then all the other steps, the upscaling, the emotions, and the example images will be generated after that automatically based on the character sheet. So let's keep only the first group activated and give our character a name. Down here, you need to decide if you want to use an input image. We want to use an input image, so this should be yes and this should be no. If you don't want to use an input image, this should be no, and this should be yes. Down here, the models will be loaded, and you can double check if you have the correct ones here. When you first run the workflow, some of these nodes might be red, even though you have the correct model. In this case, you probably just need to click on the name here and just reselect it. And next, you need to load in a character here. You can just drag and drop it in here. And preferably it should be a frontal image of a face, like a portrait style image, and it should be well lit. Down here, in the Apply PullID, you can set the strength, and I like to keep it at 95%. If you want to go for a more stylized look, for example, a Pixar character, you should reduce that to maybe like around 80% or something. Next, we need a prompt for the rest of the body. And I've broken up the character sheet prompt into 3 parts. First, up here, you probably don't have to change that. In the second group here, you can add the style of your image. And I'm just adding amateur photography and shot on iPhone for a more amateur style kind of look, because like putting DSLR and professional photography there can create some fake looking plastic skin with Flux. And down here you put in the character prompt, and this is the description for your character. What I like to do to find the right prompts is to use a captioning tool, like for example, Joy Caption Alpha. You can just use that on Hugging Face for free, drag and drop the image of your character right here, scroll down, and click caption, and after a few seconds you will get a very detailed description of your character. So I use this very long description as my foundation for the prompt, copy it over, but I then like to shorten it a little bit. And I also delete the parts of the prompt that are not necessary, for example, the background and all this stuff. We can also describe the parts that are not in the image. So we can say, for example, she's wearing jeans and brown boots. When we're done with the prompt, we can go to the control net setup. You don't have to change anything here. You just need to import the pose sheet right here. Finally, here are the sampler settings, and you don't have to change anything here if you're using a version of Flux Dev. So that's pretty much it. We can just now click Q prompt. And you can see this worked really, really well, though the boots on this one look a bit different, but that's fine. If you're not happy with your result, you can try to adjust your prompt, or you could also try out different seats. For some slightly higher quality, you can also increase the steps, for example, to 35. Once you like the image that you see here, you can go back to the beginning here and activate all the other groups. And make sure when you activate that last one here to deactivate the second yes here again. So now we can just click Q prompt and the workflow will pick up where we left it. Two steps are happening in the second group. The first one is an upscaling step, and this will already increase quality by a lot. If you have the time, you can also set this to 4 if you want, but I recommend 2. And in the second step in this group, it will go through all the individual faces and just generate more detail for them. If you want to save out all the individual faces as individual images from this workflow, you can also activate this node down here using Control B. And if you then click Q prompt, you can see you now have all the individual face images here, and you can select the best ones for Lora Training, for example. This next group here will just save out all the individual poses automatically. In the next group here, it generates different emotions for your characters. And I just put some example ones in here. You can super easily change them by just adjusting these sliders here. Let's say we want to have her look in the other direction, so I just turn that around. Let's make her blink and smile, and I click Q prompt, and you can see it changed the expression immediately. In the final group here, it will generate some example images of your character in different environments. And you can change these environments by changing the prompts under the images here. If you're not happy with your results, one thing you could do is just come down here to the left corner and change the seed. This will then generate a completely new set of images, and in the end you can just pick the ones that you like the most. Oh, these look really cool. These 4 images will be based on the emotions that you generated here. So you can see this is number 1, number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if you want to change one of these emotions, you can simply change that down here. Let's say we want to have her look down a little bit. So in this image, we could take emotion number 4, select that from the drop-down menu here, click Q prompt again, and it will only change this image here. And now you can see she looks down. You can also select all these blue nodes here, all the control nets, and click Control B. It will generate new images of your character based on the prompt alone. And this worked really well. The advantage of deactivating the control net is that you can then prompt for specific poses. Like for example, we could make her dance. Maybe she's dancing with her arms up in the air. Let's try that. And it just worked. And if you don't like these results, you can always change the prompt for more specific clothes here, for example, or try out different seats. So this worked great with this AI generated character. But now I want to try something else. I want to turn myself into a Disney Pixar style character. So for that, I go back to the beginning of the workflow here. And this time I'm using an image of myself. Next, I'm searching for a Flux Lora with the style that I'm going for. I just download that, go into my ComfyUI folder, and just put this Lora file in here. In ComfyUI, I click refresh, and now I come down here to these Loras, activate that by clicking Control B. And when I now click on this Lora name here, I can select the Lora. Let's make that a bit stronger, so maybe like 79%. Next, I need to change the prompt. So for the style and quality, I'm going to put in the style of Pixar 3D animation, high quality, Octane rendering, Pixar character, stuff like that. And for the description, I keep it really simple. I can deactivate the other groups again to see if the character sheet looks cool. Q prompt. And this is looking pretty good. So now I can activate the other groups. Q prompt. Now it's done and it looks really, really good. Like the poses look good. And I'm always amazed how well the faces come out, even for stylized characters. And the example images in different lighting conditions turned out really well as well. Now, if you want even better quality, you can get the advanced versions of these workflows on my Patreon. There I included upscaling setups for all the important parts of the workflow. It will, for example, scale up all the lighting images, the different emotions, and you can even upscale all the individual images of the character's face from the character sheet, giving you maximum quality for Lora training. As I said, these workflows are very resource intensive and take a lot of time to compute. So let's now continue with the free fast version for Flux. I simply drag and drop it into the workflow and you can see it pretty much looks exactly the same. But the models are different. For this, we're using GGUF models for Flux and you can get them inside of the ComfyUI manager. Just go to the model manager and search for Flux and here you can see all of them. Now there are a lot of different versions and it's hard to pick the correct one for your system. You can check out this Flux GGUF guide on Civit AI that I will put in my video description. And here, for example, you can see the version number and how fast it is and how much you're paying the price with quality. So I want to check out the Q4 version where the inference speed is supposed to be very fast, but the quality is only acceptable. So let's find out what acceptable means. So I download this version right here by just clicking install. Once that's done, let's also download the clip encoder with GGUF. So I'm also installing Q4 here. Once that's done, just click refresh and I'm just going to select the model here and the clip encoder. Let's switch that out for this one. Now we can do even more to speed up this workflow. So I'm downloading this Alimama Creative Flux Turbo model right here, and you can find that link in the installation guide and put it inside of ComfyUI, models, Loras, and I like to rename this one Flux 8-step just so I know what it is. In ComfyUI, click refresh and use this Lora loader right here to select it. So let's run this thing and compare the outputs. Well, I mean, you can kind of see me in there and it's looking like a Disney Pixar character, so I'm honestly surprised that it worked so well. We can also maybe try the moderate version here that is supposed to have good quality and the best balance between performance and accuracy. And yeah, okay, that's definitely better, that's progress. I also created an SDXL version of this workflow and you can produce some pretty amazing results with this one as well. Now I also want to try to turn myself into a Pixar character. I'm using the Wildcard Turbo model. We don't need a Lora for this and this already works at 8 steps, so it's also super fast. For the SDXL version, the pull ID seems to be a bit stronger, so for more stylized characters, I like to reduce the strength a little bit. We can also use a negative prompt with SDXL and I already put one in here, but the structure of the workflow and how it works is exactly the same compared to the other versions. So let's just click Q prompt and this only took a couple of seconds. It's looking pretty good and it's done and honestly it's looking pretty good. And also I think the lighting tests look really good as well. So definitely don't sleep on the SDXL version just because it's older. Now let's train some Loras with the datasets we just created. For this, I'm going to use Flux Gym, and the easiest way to install Flux Gym is via Pinocchio. It's a one-click installer for a lot of different AI models. And I'm going to start up Flux Gym. And let's start with the Pixar version of myself that I generated with Flux Dev. First of all, we need a name for our Lora, and I'm just going to use Mixar. And I'm also going to use this as my trigger word. The trigger word should be something that is not a commonly used word. I want to train Flux Dev, so I select this one. I have 24 gigabytes of VRAM, but you can get as low as 12 gigabytes. I've tested that. It will take a longer time, but it works. That's all we need to do here. And now we put in our data set. So let's collect all the images that we want to use for training. And I definitely want to use all the full body images. I want to use all the different emotions and I definitely want to use some of these lighting tests here. So let's select the best ones. I think this is looking pretty nice. I like the subsurface scattering in this image here. So let's take that one as well. That is good too. And this one is great as well. This is already more than enough, but I like to go to the head poses that we generated here. And what I like to do is I like to add at least one like profile view. We can just drag and drop that in there. Already added the trigger word to all the images here. And next we can automatically caption these images with Florence 2. And this is pretty fast. So after Florence 2 was done, I just made sure that I added like the perspective of the image. So for example, here I want to make sure that Flux understands that this is a back view of the character, this is a profile view. I added the lighting conditions, and I also added like the emotions for these images here. And yeah, the lighting conditions here. And now you can just click Start Training. When the training is done, you can go into your Pinocchio folder, go to API, Flux Gym, Outputs, and there you find all your Loras. There are different versions, so it saves out different versions as it's creating these Loras. And we want to use this last one here. Go into my ComfyUI folder, go to Models, Loras, and I put it here. And now in ComfyUI we can click Refresh, and I load in this workflow. This is just a standard image creation with Flux workflow. So in the beginning here, we load in the models, just like for the character sheet. And here we can load in 2 Loras. One is deactivated, let's keep that way. And next I want to load in the Mixar model. So I use a prompt like this, a young blonde man named Mixar. Remember, we need to put the trigger word in there too. So Mixar walks through the mystical forest with giant mushroom. Let's cue this prompt. And this is looking pretty cool. I've also included this noise injection setup from last video again. So this will just add a little bit more detail to the generation, helping especially with like cloth and hair. When you like an image, you can also activate the upscaling setup right here using Ctrl B and just let it do its magic. So now that you know how to use these workflows, let me show you how to install them on your own computer. To help you follow along, I also created this free guide so you can double check if you have all the correct models and put them in the right locations. First, you need to install ComfyUI. And unfortunately, while I was making this video, ComfyUI released a new version of the tool that uses a new Python version that is not yet compatible with the workflow. So make sure to use this provided link to download a compatible version. If you already installed ComfyUI in the past, you should be good. So click the link, scroll down and download this zip file here. While this is downloading, you can already install Git. Click on this link and download the 46-bit version. I've already installed it, but you just need to follow the default installation steps. Once it's downloaded, you can right-click and extract all. Once it's done, you'll find this folder in the extracted folder. And I'm just going to rename that demo. This is your ComfyUI directory and you can put it anywhere you want on your computer. Next, you need to download the ComfyUI manager. Just click the link in my guide, scroll down, and here just right click, save link as, and go to your ComfyUI directory, open it and save it inside here. To install the ComfyUI manager, simply double click on that file. And congratulations, you installed ComfyUI. But since this workflow uses pull ID, we need to do a few extra steps. For example, we need to install FaceXLib. For this, go to your Python embedded folder inside your ComfyUI directory and type in cmd into the address bar and click enter. And this will open this CMD console. Here you just need to copy in this command and press enter. When you see this line, you know that it's finished and you can close the command window. Next, we need to install Inside Face. For this, we can stay in the Python embed folder and I want to run the Python application to double check if we have the correct version. This will open another window and you can see here we are using Python 3.11.9. Close the window again and click on this link. Here you need to download the file for our Python version. And since we are using 3.11, we need to download this version here, 3.11. Once it's done, we can come back to our main ComfyUI directory and type in cmd here and press enter. Now you can copy the first part of this command up until here, copy and paste, press space, and now go to the downloads folder or to the place where you downloaded the Inside Face file. Right click, copy as path and put it here. Finally press space again and copy this, ONNX runtime. and press Enter. And once again, when you see a line like this, you know that it's done, and you can close the window. Finally, you can start ComfyUI by clicking Run NVIDIA GPU, and ComfyUI will start in your browser. To load in my workflow, you can simply drag and drop my workflow file into the ComfyUI interface, and you can see that it loads it, but there are a lot of different nodes missing. But to install them, we can simply go to Manager, Install Missing Custom Nodes, select all of them, and click Install. And once it's done, just click Restart. This might take some time as it's finalizing the installation process for the nodes. And once it's done, you can see the workflow is here and we don't have any red nodes. But before we can use these workflows, we need to install the missing models. You can find a list of all the models you need in my guide, but the easiest way to install them is not to manually download them from here and put them in the correct folder. We can actually do that in ComfyUI. So let's go to Manager, Model Manager, and search for Flux Dev. And I'm going to use this one here as my main model. So just click Install. Once that's downloaded, let's download the clip models. And we need 2 of them. And we need this one here, and we also need this one here, and install them both. Next, we need the VAE, so search for VAE and install this one here. Next, we need the ControlNet model. Next, we need an upscaling model, and you can get this here. Click on the link. Click on Download here. Download this model. Go to ComfyUI, Models, Upscale Models, and put it here. Next, we need the pull ID model. And for Flux, just use this link here. Click Download. Then go to your main directory, ComfyUI, Models. And now you need to create a new folder. Call that pull ID and put the model into this folder. Next, you're going to need Antelope v2. So click on this link, download the zip file. And while that's downloading, we can already create the folders. For this one, we need to go to ComfyUI Models and create an inside face folder. So type in inside face, go into the folder and create another folder called Models. And finally, inside of that folder, create a new folder called Antelope v2 and extract the files from inside the Antelope v2 zip that you just downloaded into this folder. Finally, that's all you need to do for the Flux version. When you first use one of these workflows, you might need to reload them. So just go to the Load Diffusion model and click on it and select the correct version. Oh, and if you want to see previews while generating, you can go to Manager, and I'm using Latent to RGB, so that while it's generating, you can already see if your prompt is working. I hope you enjoyed this video and this workflow is useful to you. If you would like to support my work and gain access to the advanced workflows and exclusive example files like all the data sets, character sheets, Loras and prompts I used and created for this workflow, consider supporting me on Patreon. Your support makes this channel possible, so thank you very much and see you next time.